Hey everybody, this is John Skiba from the Arizona Consumer Law Group. I'm also the founder of the Consumer Warrior Project, which is really focused on helping people who are dealing with serious debt problems get information and resources. You can learn more about that over at legal.coach. On today's video, I wanted to talk about debt collection lawsuits and some of the myths that I see people believing in as it relates to service of process. Now, a lot of people think that debt collection lawsuits maybe are not that common. Actually, they're very common. We see over 500,000 debt collection lawsuits filed nationwide per year. In Arizona, I was at the court the other day and I was looking at the docket. There are thousands of new debt collection lawsuits filed each and every month here in the state of Arizona. So this impacts a lot of people, a lot of families. And so what I wanted to talk about today specifically are three myths that I see as it relates to service of process and actually receiving the complaint and the summons. Now, the process of getting the complaint and summons is when a constable or a private process server actually comes by your house and drops off the complaint and summons. A lot of people believe that service is not legitimate or it's not effective if they haven't signed for it. When I meet with people here in my office, they often say, I got a copy of the complaint and the summons, but I don't have to respond to it yet because they didn't have me sign for it. Well, in Arizona, you're not required to sign for it. What will happen is the process server will come by, drop it off at your house, and then they will file something called a certificate of service or an affidavit of service with the court that lets them know when they served you. The clock then starts ticking for you to file a written response to that complaint. In Arizona, that's 20 days you have, and if you don't do it, you're going to end up with a default judgment, which means they can then garnish your wages and do all kinds of unpleasant things. So you want to respond to it, so it's very important you understand when service happened. You don't have to sign for it. That's one of the big myths that I see. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the myth that if they serve someone else who lives in your home besides you, that doesn't count. All that the law requires is that they serve you at your home where you actually reside, but they don't have to serve you personally. They can serve somebody else who lives in the home who looks responsible. This means they could serve your teenage kids. They could serve your spouse. It doesn't have to be you specifically. So if someone comes by, the process server, the constable, they drop off this complaint and summons and they leave it with your spouse, that counts. The clock is now ticking for you to respond to the complaint and summons. The final myth that I want to address is a big one that I see a lot, and that is that people believe if they just simply ignore or hide or avoid the process server, that this whole lawsuit thing will go away, and that's simply not true. What will happen is if a process server comes by multiple times and they're not able to serve you because you're either avoiding them, you're not answering the door, that kind of thing, they will go back to the court, and the court will give them an alternative service order, which will allow them to serve you through some other means. Typically nowadays, that's done through sending a copy in the mail and posting a copy to your door. The problem with that is what I see is that most people who get served through an alternative service order, they end up not really knowing if they were served, and a default judgment ends up being entered against them. So I highly recommend that you accept service, get a copy of the complaint, get a copy of the summons, meet with someone like myself, an attorney who deals with these kind of lawsuits, and put together a game plan or a strategy on how you can deal with it. It's better to deal with it head on than to deal with the default judgment where you're digging out of a hole right from the get-go. So if you want to learn more about the debt collection process, if you're looking for some tools or resources, you can head on over to legal.coach. I have different flow charts and pleadings and templates and things like that you can download. I even have some online courses that will show you how to draft some of the initial documentation that's necessary to defend yourself in these types of lawsuits. I also offer free consultations to the people in Arizona. You can sign up for that at consumerwarrior.com. There you'll find an online scheduling system where you can sign up for an appointment to talk with me directly, and we can help you put together a plan on how to deal with your debt problem. Appreciate you watching today, and we'll catch you next time.